All right, Dr. Sap here with the first of my YouTube videos on the who's who of Michigan football. I thought it'd be best to start with none other than the godfather of Michigan football archiving.
Hey, the godfather of
Art
Vuolo.
Vuolo Jr.
We're going to get you for that.
Thanks for doing this. It's great to have you here.
Good to be here, Dr. Sap. I call you Steve? Or?
You can do that. I got to call you that because you've been doing this longer than anybody that I know. Tell me about the genesis of this. How did it all start? How did you start archiving?
Well, when I moved to Ann Arbor in 1962, okay. I didn't know squat about Michigan football. I didn't care about sports.
Moved from where?
From Indianapolis. Grew up in Indianapolis, my wonder years. All my grade school, half of high school. Okay. I was halfway through high school when I moved to Ann Arbor. And went to Ann Arbor High School, right, which is now Pioneer.
Yeah.
Right across from the big house. And Bob Seeger was in my gym class. How about that?
Wow.
And Deion Jackson, who had one hit, but Love Makes the World Go Round, he sat in front of me in English. So we had some stars. Ken Burns, the very famous documentarian, also went to Ann Arbor High. Yeah.
I did not know that.
About 10, 12 years after me. So I'm much older.
Trailblazing.
Yeah.
Okay.
So anyway, I'm a radio freak. I've been into the radio business for over 64 years now. And so I started listening on the radio, and I hear this guy screaming and yelling about Michigan football. And I'm going, boy, this is interesting. This guy was actually entertaining. And I kept listening and listening. And eventually I started tape recording his games on reel-to-reel tape.
Cassette.
Oh no, reel-to-reel.
Reel.
It's a reel of tape. You thread it up, put it on, and that's how I was. That's what I was doing. And this is Bob Euper, and that I'm talking about. And he actually was an insurance man. I think with Penn Mutual Insurance, as I recall, probably.
Yep.
And then later in life, when I needed insurance, he was my insurance man. But in the beginning, I just found him to be so entertaining. Even though I didn't even understand how the game was played, I didn't know one down from another down. I mean, it was like totally obscure to me. But the guy was really fun to listen to. So when Bo Schembechler came to Michigan in 1969, which is the year I actually graduated from college, I started recording the games thinking that this would be something cool to have in my library.
So you were recording the radio broadcast?
The radio broadcast from... at that time, WPAG in Ann Arbor.
Which stands for?
Well, they used to say it was Women's Pants and Girdles, but it actually stood for Paul and Arthur Green of Green's Cleaners in Ann Arbor. They put the station on the air in 1945. Okay. Bob Euper, the year they went on the air, said, hey, I'll do the Michigan games for you. The station was a daytime only, signed off at sundown,
wow, like
a lot of stations did, and only operated with 1,000 watts, which is not that much, and so. But back in those days, all the football games were on the daytime. There was no such thing as a nighttime football game.
Noon kickoff, I believe, or 1 o'clock.
Almost always 1 o'clock. Yep. Yes. Bo's famous quote was, "Toe meets leather at 1 o'clock. That's when we're playing football. If you want to televise it, that's when we're playing." Right. He is turning over in his grave at the fact that now the television networks tell all the schools, dictating. Yes, are you going to play at noon? Are you going to play at 3:30? Are you going to play at night? What you're going to do, when you breathe in, when you breathe out.
Thursday night, Friday night.
And the funny thing is, Bob Euper in the old days used to say, my gosh, we're waiting for TV. We're holding up our radio broadcast because we're waiting for the magic eye. He used to
call it the
magic eye. The
magic eye? Okay.
The magic eye knows all. Or maybe it was the big eye. It was he referred to it as the eye, the eye that never winks. Yeah. And you just, and I'm thinking to myself, way back then, he was talking about the stranglehold that television had on the game.
Yeah.
If he could see what Fox and some of these networks are doing with incredible amounts of commercial timeouts.
Delays, yes.
Oh, yeah. Unbelievable. So anyway, that's how it all came about. And I was, I had a big archive of all these games. So when the Euper family came to me, and it was primarily Bob and his son Tom, came to me, I think it was when Bob first got diagnosed that maybe he had a serious health problem. Of course,
so late 70s?
Yeah, I moved into my
Mid-70s?
first house in 1977.
Okay.
So I believe it was 1977. They said, let's do a record album, okay?
A record for those of you.
The record. Yeah, this is what it looked like. This was actually the second one. The first one looked like this. We called it Euer of Michigan. That way, be U of M.
Yes.
And then this one was the Run for the Roses. So, and I designed the back, which is kind of a busy design with pictures and bios and all this stuff. So, so I'm the only one that had all these games. I mean, if we went to the radio stations looking, they didn't keep anything.
They didn't archive anything.
No, didn't save anything. Euper family never recorded anything.
Cold storage back then.
Nothing.
No cloud.
I'm the only one that had. No,
You're the cloud.
I was the cloud.
You were the cloud.
So anyway, so since I had the material, it was Bob and me and Paul W. Smith from WJR was the narrator on the first one. Frank Beckman, the longtime successor to Bob Euper after he died, doing the games, he narrated the second one.
Correct.
But we sat there in my basement in my home in Ypsilanti, Michigan. I was in Ypsilanti Township, actually. And we were just at each other's throat about what was going to go on the record, what was not. He kept wanting this and this and this. And I said, Bob, there's a limitation as to how much we can put on the record.
What do you have on one side? Is it 30, 29
well, first
minutes?
of all, the average record, the LP record, the average is 18 minutes per side.
The average.
The average.
But you can max it out.
We maxed it out to 29 and a half minutes on each side.
Each side.
The record company, which was in Cincinnati, called Queen City Record Company, and Bob did not want anyone to know it was pressed
in Ohio.
Okay, because you know about that,
right?
So we actually were told by the record company that we cannot guarantee that this record will play or this record will track. That was the word. That it would track on everyone's turntable because the grooves were so fine, like microscopic.
And you can only put so many grooves on one side.
Right. Well, it's one big long groove, obviously, but if they say how many grooves in a record, there's just one that goes me out.
That's a good one.
So, but we argued about what was going to be on it and what.
Who's we?
Me,
who was there?
Me, Bob, and Paul was the innocent narrator.
Was Tom Euper there?
I'm trying to remember.
We should put this play in. We should put that play in.
I don't think he was there in the basement with me. There was a couple of other people that put some input and what have you. But
I've seen your basement. I've taken a few pictures of it. I'll put it here in the video so fans can really understand. You know,
it was crazy. It was crazy.
How long did it take you to make the first LP? One night?
Oh, no, many nights. Till very late at night. And Paul had just gotten married to his first wife.
I was going to say, you guys are all working during the day. This is something that you're doing sort of after hours.
Night in the
after
evening.
Dinner, right?
Exactly.
Right.
And Paul was working in Toledo and living just on this side of the Michigan-Ohio border. Okay. So it was really tight. He was spending a lot of time with us and not with his brand new wife of Paula. Yeah, I know their names were Paul and Paula. You can't make this up. So anyway, so that's how that worked out. We finally got the thing done. And I mean, one of the big parts of the album was, in a clip of the video from this, is even in the promotional film they run before the football games in the big house. And that's where Bob Euper holds up a jacket with a big number one with President Ford. Yep. Ford was running for, because he did not get elected. Remember, it was when Nixon resigned that he became the president. So they had this big rally in Chrysler Arena, and the band was there and all, and Bob Euper really got them going. And I recorded the thing on a little 90-minute Kmart cassette. I'll never forget. One of those cheap little, and that's where I recorded this thing. And it was fantastic. They played the Olympiad thing along with the Michigan fanfare. Right. It was tremendous. And so that's what the basis of all this was coming together with the record out. The record was so successful. We brought it out on vinyl. Believe it or not, after vinyl, we actually put it on an 8-track tape. Yep. We then put it out on cassette,
which I have.
And then finally on CD. and that's where it rests today. I don't know if there are downloads out there,
Sure,
digital downloads, but that's where we go.
So that was the first one.
Yeah.
That was 69 through 76.
And it
right?
was such a success that then we got the diagnosis that it looked like Bob had cancer. It turned out to be, nobody identified what kind of cancer, just that it was cancer.
Yeah.
Well, as it turned out, it was colon cancer, which, as we know today, is so preventable, especially if you catch it early. But back then, it wasn't. And it was not good. And he was only, I believe, 62 years old when he died, which is ridiculous. I mean,
in 1981.
In 1981. And he died right in the middle of the football season.
Yep.
Sadly, after a loss, 9-7 against Iowa.
Yep.
And it sounded like a baseball score, and they ran under the banner they had where it normally says "Go Blue, M Club supports you." It said Bob Euper's name.
Yep.
I mean,
Very touching.
It was just like a Hollywood movie.
Yeah.
Just like a Hollywood movie. You couldn't have planned it better. And that turned out to be his very last game.
Yeah.
Okay, so it was, and they all turned around and chanted.
Yeah, and honked the horn.
Oh, it was
great, right?
Incredible.
And
Arnold Grapentine was on the PA.
Yeah.
Oh, it was a moment.
And then the next week at the Illinois game, they do a moment of silence.
It was
2 weeks after.
2 weeks later, after he had passed away. You're right, Illinois, and that was a game we were losing. We were losing 21-0, I think, at the beginning, and we went on to win it 70-21. Yeah, it was unbelievable. And they asked for a moment of silence, and people that have heard the tape or seen the tape said, "Okay, you just turned the mic down, didn't you?" I said, "No, that was the mic on the camera. The mic on the camera you cannot turn up or down, and it actually got that quiet in the stadium. You could hear a pin drop."
You captured the moment, and this is what we need to talk about, because you moved from recording radio to now going to the games and recording the video.
And
when did that start?
In all my videos, I used the radio sound.
Right.
I either took it off of a radio, or I would get a direct feed from the radio booth and plug it into the
box.
Right, in the press box. I was on the photo deck.
So when did you first start recording video of the games?
1979.
So 79 is your first season.
Yeah.
You're doing video. You're in the press box on the photo deck.
Yeah, 45 years now. This will be year number 46 this year.
So, and for a little bit for everyone that doesn't know, so you don't just record the games, like you said, you sync it up to the radio broadcast. So you've done Euper, you've done Beckman, you had a little bit of...
Randstadter and Deerdorf.
Randstadter and Deerdorf. Well, even before then, you had...
other people that did color were like Bob Thornblade.
Jerry Hanlin did it, right? Yep.
Yeah.
And then, of course, now the newest team, Karsh.
Yeah,
and Jansen.
And in fact, when, what's his name? The coach, help me.
Was Sherrell Moore? Jim Harbaugh?
No. God, he's still around. He gives the stirring speech. You just said his name.
Jerry
Hanlin.
Yeah.
Jerry Hanlin, when he was doing color one time, I mean, he would forget that he's on the radio. And I remember Ed Buderbaugh, who was the chief engineer, he was also the chief engineer that made CKLW, a great sounding radio station back in the day.
The Big Eight.
Yes, because he was Canadian. He lived in Harrow, Ontario.
Shout out to the Canadians.
That's right, absolutely. Yes, go Canada. So anyhow, he said yes. When Hanlin was on, he kept one finger on the dump button because you never knew when he was going to swear.
That's the 7-second delay button?
Yeah, the 7-second delay, because you don't want the swearing to go out over the air. And one time the guy was making a run for a touchdown, and he actually said, "Look at that son of a bitch go." And now today, you can,
get away with that.
Yeah, you can get away with that because it's like, I remember in the Johnny Cash song, A Boy Named Sue. He said, "I'm the son of a bitch that named you Sue." You can actually put it in the song today. But back then, that was considered taboo.
Right.
But he was very excitable. But then that was after the Bob Euper years. This was
correct
with Frank Beckman. Frank Beckman did it for like 30 years.
Yeah, 81 to I guess about 2011.
And he was forced out. He was forced out by the probably under the Brandon years. A lot of people were pushed out of the press box. Bruce Marley, John U. Bacon, so many people that had been there forever.
Yep.
And then after Brandon left the university and a new AD came in,
a lot of them came back. Right?
Yeah, a lot of them came back.
Well, that's good.
Yeah.
So you start doing the games in '79. I can remember my good friend John Crick and I went to a photo day. I think it was on 1982 or 1983.
By the way, in '79, if I can inject,
You can.
that was the year, of the famous Wangler catch.
Carter to Wangler Carter.
From John Wangler running in at the Indiana game. Lee Corso going nuts on the sideline, and the famous ending to the Indiana game. And that was the 100th anniversary of Michigan football.
Right, that was the centennial year.
That's right, centennial year.
So I can remember John Crick remembered you from the back of the album cover.
Yes,
when we saw you at the photo
picture,
day,
yeah.
and we approached you, and
Yes.
I think you were just so surprised that here were a couple of young guys,
I went security.
the Canadian kids, anyways.
Get these guys.
And I can remember we went to your house because you were telling us all about your archives, and I remember walking into your basement and just seeing people. I'll put the picture out there. Literally wall to wall, ceiling to wall.
This would be a good place for me to insert the fact that when Jim Brandstatter decided he's going to throw his hat in the ring for the job,
To be the broadcaster.
to be the play-by-play guy, when they forced Beckman out, he came over to get a game that I had of him actually calling a game.
Right.
It was a Northwestern game from 2003. He didn't have it. I did, with the video
Of course.
of the game. So therefore, the AD could look at the game and hear his call, and which gave him a distinct advantage over everybody else. So when he came over for the first time to my house, his words...
Probably similar to mine.
Do we have to? Did we bleep or we just say it? His words were, when he came down, he said, "Man, I knew you had a lot of shit, but I didn't think you had this much."
Yeah.
And because, like you just said, every wall in my house in Novi, Michigan, is covered from ceiling to floor with every tape, format from Beta and VHS. To 8mm, to mini DV, to 3/4 inch, you name it.
Cassette, right?
Everything. It's all there.
We end up staying in touch. I move over here to the U.S. and I help you get your website going.
Yes.
So tell us about your website and what do you have on
the
there?
The website is called Vuolo Video, and for those of you who want to write this down, it's VUOLO. So there's a U after the V, but you don't pronounce it. It's just Volo, V-O-L-O is the way you pronounce it. But to go to the website, it's VUOLO video.com.
So on there, you've got all formats. You've got your audio games, and then you've got your video, correct?
Well, there's a list of all the games.
By season.
Yeah, the ones that are in heavy type were victories. Regular type were losses. Okay?
Some people don't want losses. I know a lot of collectors. I'll take every game, but I don't want losses.
Nobody wants to see us lose again, unless it was maybe a really exciting game, right down to the wire or something. And there have been some nail biters. The Colorado game with the Hail Mary at the end.
Yeah,
they pulled it out.
Stewart.
Yeah,
I was there for
the
that.
Manningham Penn State game,
right,
where he ran and caught it, and Joe Paw just
overtime.
Had a heart attack.
With 1 second left, right?
Yeah, I mean, there've been a lot of great endings. The one that, of course, everyone remembers is the Michigan State game with the bobble at the end, and that famous guy, who became...
Oh, right, the 2015 game. I thought you were talking about the Spartan Bob clock game in East Lansing. Because on that one, if you people don't know...
On that one, remember, I put together a video of that, showing the end in 2001, and this is only, a month or so after the terrible 9/11 attack in New York.
Right.
So this was, I remember when Bob Euper compared...
the attack on Pearl Harbor.
Yeah, he compared the fact that Michigan didn't get voted to the Rose Bowl
73
to like Pearl Harbor, which was a bit extreme. But anyway, that was Bob. That was Bob. but I took the ending of that game, that 1 extra second game, and I show it 3 times.
Right.
And all I did was
three different calls.
No, it was the
It's
same
different-
video.
same
three
video,
times.
but-
I just changed the audio.
Yes.
So the first time you hear Brandstatter and Beckman.
Yep. The Michigan call.
Yeah, the Michigan call, and he's screaming. They stole this game. They stole this game. Screaming and yelling about how unfair it was. Then you hear George Blaha and his color guy, which his color analyst who sounded like a jolly DJ. I'll never forget. I forget who the guy was. He said, they really won this game. The Spartans won.
That's the MSU version.
Yeah, and MSU, of course, Blaha screams his famous touchdown MSU, screaming. Yeah. Then the third one was Brent Musburger.
The network broadcast.
Who I've gotten into arguments with him about how biased against Michigan he is.
Are you one of those people? Do you really
I'm one
think
of those
that?
people. I did that.
You don't think he's playing both sides of the fence here?
He was no more than Gus Johnson does today.
All right.
Gus Johnson, for being a Detroiter, doesn't give a damn about Michigan.
I don't know about that.
Well,
all right.
He doesn't seem to. He seems to think Ohio State is the best. Anyway, but aside from that,
so those are your three versions of the call, right?
Yeah, and his color analyst was Gary Danielson.
Yep.
Who was saying something like a little home cooking here, remember?
Little
home cooking with the clock,
Because you can see it. You have the clock superimposed on the play.
Honest to
right?
God.
Ticks down. So this is great. So you've captured these classic moments from Wangler to Carter, right?
And who was the coach in that famous 1 second game? Lloyd Carr.
Right.
It was 2 or 3 years before I gave Lloyd a copy of that. Because he was really mad about that. And rightfully so.
Well, and he had petitioned the league, and they finally made the change because they did have a home official running the clock as opposed to a crew official versus somebody from the stadium.
That was a classic moment.
Right. So that's good. So let's talk about the time that you actually you helped out the university when they were on WJR for the longest time, right?
Yeah.
Bob Euper's games.
Yes, they switched from Michigan State to Michigan in 1976.
Right.
That was the bicentennial year, so they thought it was appropriate. WJR, which is 76 on the dial, so that's why they switched to Michigan. Okay.
Well, Bob Euper was gaining popularity too.
Yes, and Bob Euper was just on the Little Ann Arbor station, and now he was going to be on the Big Kahuna, 50,000 watt WJR, a station that you can hear all the way into Ohio. You can hear them all the way to Columbus. In the daytime, at night they covered half the country.
Florida, right?
Yeah. So so that was a big deal. I remember Bob was crying to me, saying, "Oh my God, they're getting hate mail at WJR. They don't like me, And I said, hey, there are people that want to throw a brick through their TV about Howard Cosell and Monday Night Football. He's laughing all the way to the bank. Don't give it a second thought. All you hear is people that complain. People that love you, they're the silent majority. Don't worry about it."
So true.
But anyway, it went on. So unfortunately, that was 77, and then Bob died in 81. So you only had, about a 4 or 5 year run on WJR before he was gone.
So why does WJR make the change? Was there a change in leadership, or was there a change in philosophy?
Basically, it was the fact that, and there's a whole story in my website about this. You can read the story that says why WJR repainted the blue room with green paint. And it would the gist of it is always money.
So what year was this?
This was 05, I believe it was.
2005.
Yeah, it was October. It was right in the middle of the football season.
Well, that's what made it a stunner.
Yeah, it was and Bill Martin, who was the AD at the time, told me they were blindsided by this. They didn't see it come. They thought in good faith, year after year, they'd renew with WJR.
Since 76, right? You got a whole generation of listeners, right?
Exactly. So, but there were, meantime, Michigan State was wooing WJR, letting them know how much they really wanted to be a part of the process. But the problem is that Michigan State, and I'm painting with a very broad brush, Michigan State's alumni stays primarily in the Michigan and Midwest area, whereas Michigan alums scatter all over the world.
Sure.
Okay,
largest living
exactly. So we figured WJR really made more sense for Michigan football, and a lot of people were very angry when it went off. They didn't know what they were going to do. This was just unthinkable. So, but it happened. And so the university came to me and trying to help them get a new station.
Because if people don't know out there, you are called radio's best friend. Art knows everybody
That's
in
a
radio.
nickname that was given to me.
From Wolfman Jack to Ryan Seacrest. Seriously, Art knows everybody in between. So you know radio like nobody else. So they reach out to you and say, "Hey, we just got hit with a blindside.
Yeah.
What are we going to do?"
I told them, I said, "Gentlemen, it's time to take the games to FM." As much as I love AM radio,
and you are an AM slappy, I got to tell you that.
Yeah, I am, and wanted to see it stay. But you see, I said, folks, you lost the biggest stick in Michigan, meaning the biggest signal, okay? And when you lose that, and plus the fact that AM stations at night, unless you're the big kahuna like WJR, which the station is nowhere near the power it once was. Technically it is, but ratings-wise and audience-wise, It's not what it used to be.
Right.
The current owner of that station is doing
a
great job of destroying WJR as we once knew it. So, and Lloyd Carr was thinking WWJ, because that's the way they think. They're not radio guys. They didn't realize that WWJ on 950 at night puts all their signal up towards the Migback Bridge on the top of the state, and you can't hear it on the far east side of Detroit or out towards Ann Arbor at night. You can only hear it north.
Okay.
So that wouldn't work. So I said, let's go on FM. FM is the same day and night. There's
same signal strength.
Same signal strength, same coverage.
Yep.
There's no difference at night.
So didn't you actually draw coverage maps?
Yes.
And show them? Because I remember you showed them to me.
Plus the fact there were many games now at this point, which were like 3:30 games. Right. They went into the evening,
night games.
And there's nothing worse than the fourth quarter. They have to drop their power or they change their pattern of their coverage area, and you no longer can hear the station. That's terrible. So I said, let's put it on FM. So the two biggest FM signals in Detroit were WRIF 101.1 or WOMC 104.3.
Yep.
Now, the reason with WRIF wasn't selected is because they had a morning show, it was a rock and roll station. They had a morning show called Drew and Mike, who were edgy. They were kind of not Howard Stern, but they were pretty edgy.
Along the same lines.
Yeah,
yep.
And they said, that's not the image really. WOMC had Dick Purton in the morning, who was a family man, 6
more
daughters. More conservative, very nice, friendly show, very clean show, nothing edgy about it. And that appealed to them. So we struck a deal. I struck a deal with WOMC, and I told the athletic director, Bill Martin, I said, WOMC stands for Wayne, Oakland, Macomb counties. That's what the letters stand for. But I said, I came up with an idea. How about it stands for Where Only Michigan Counts? He goes, I love it. So he goes on the air on the Dick Purton show to make the big announcement that this is going to be our new home on FM. And he says, we're so happy to be here on WOMC, Where Only Michigan Counts. I was on the road to Indianapolis for the Indy 500 when this happened, and I almost went right off the highway. I said, oh my God, that's my slogan. You want to know how many times this slogan was used? That was it.
That was it.
That one time. You know why? They didn't think of it. That's the way radio stations are a lot of times. If they didn't come up with it, it wasn't their idea.
Right.
Not gonna, no matter how good it was,
right.
They weren't going to use it.
Right.
So that's what happened. But it was a 5-year deal. After the 5 years, they didn't want to renew because the program director didn't want to give up that much time away from music because they were
regular
Detroit's
format.
oldies, the regular format. They were the oldie station in Detroit at the time. And he didn't want to give up, the audience, figuring if they went away when the football game was on, would they come back after the football game? That's the way people think in radio. So they didn't renew. Now, here it was August. They were getting ready to start the next year. They still didn't have a station. So they got WWJ. So, but by this time, WWJ was up to 50,000 watts, but they were still directional. And now the games are on FM through the Ticket, which is sister station. So 97.1 The Ticket, which is Detroit's all sports station. Yep. They carried, if they have a conflict with professional, like baseball or hockey or anything else that's professional, they then put it, where they put it? WOMC. No, it's back on OMC.
Wow.
I told the program director, maybe you should go back to that Where Only Michigan Counts thing. But he wouldn't swallow his pride, so that's the way it goes.
That is funny.
Yeah, it's a true story.
So you've done a lot of games. You've been doing it now since '79, recording the games.
Yeah.
How many more years do you want to do this?
5 more years, I'll hit 50 years. That's when I'm going to quit.
Wow.
Yeah, because I'll be, that old. So I've been up in the press box now for 45 years. Best seat in the house. People would cut off a body part to be where I am.
I was going to tell people, I've been up there a few times. It's an amazing vista. It's an amazing view.
I'm very, very spoiled. I can't sit down there with the commoners, you know.
Well, no, Art does a great job capturing the moment.
And what I do is I get all the things that TV doesn't have time for. Because TV runs so many commercials.
Right.
So I show the
rolling.
Yeah,
You're rolling.
I show the tailgating before the game.
Yep.
I show the band, all the pregame stuff. They come on the field, and all the whoop, the flyovers, all the stuff TV doesn't. Sure. They just come on.
Well, because it's all packaged.
It's all packaged, you know. So that's what I try to do, and then I show the halftime. They never show the halftime. They go back to the studios in New York.
Right.
They're going to show you highlights and things of games you don't give a damn about. And you miss all that stuff. And people like to see the band. And then during the TV commercials, a lot of times they'll salute the veteran of the game or somebody that's been giving many years of service to Michigan. And they bring him out of the field, or a team that won a trophy in a lesser sport or something. So that's what and I get all that stuff. And then people subscribe to my service.
Well, what you're doing now, for football, is what you've been doing all along for radio. You were recording these radio shows long before it became the thing to do, and now you're recording Carson Jansen or Beckman while they're making their calls sometimes, correct?
Yeah.
So you're not just doing the game, you're actually getting them making the call of the play.
And now what I do is I put the games together in a nice little package, all digitally now, in high definition, with stereo sound. I put microphones way out on the window ledge, so the band is in stereo. It sounds like you're right in the stadium. And I make these available for an insane price. Too low to mention on the podcast here. So just get in touch with me, and I'll explain to you how this is done.
How can they get in touch with you?
Vuolo Video, Vuolo, or you can email me. And my name is Art Vuolo, ARTVUOLO @AOL.com. That's how old I am. I still got AOL. But it works. Just email me and send me the information about how I can get the games. And what I do is I shoot them on Saturday. I edit them starting Saturday night, all day Sunday. I get them out Monday.
In the mail Monday.
But some people still want the DVDs, and we do that for some people. But mostly, we send them out electronically in an email.
Right.
And they get, and it's on Vimeo, which is similar to YouTube.
Right.
And they get a link. All they have to do is click on it, and boom, it's right there.
So let's talk about your and
it's good. It's
good
stuff.
It is good stuff. It is good stuff. How you've digitized your archive, because I remember I was there the one time. We're doing the 1971 touchdown Billy Taylor. You put in the reel-to-reel that you haven't used in maybe 30 years at this point, and he puts it in and he's playing it, and the tape snaps right in the middle of the call, and I just look horrified, like, oh my gosh, we just lost forever Euper's call of touchdown Billy Taylor, because back then you hadn't digitized it.
Yeah.
And Art's reaction was, no big deal, I'll just get some Scotch tape.
Yeah, we
and he literally taped the magnetic tape back, right, with Scotch tape, and you can't even hear the seam, the stitch.
Yeah.
But so now you have, thanks to my, I think, urging, you've digitized basically everything.
He's the one.
Right?
Yes.
So you have it on the original medium, but it is now in a digitized format.
Yeah.
And not just on DVD or CD, but you've got now audio files, video files.
Yeah, and in the beginning, when I first started doing video, it was on a Betamax tape, and the beta tapes were 1 hour. That's all you could record when they first came out, 60 minutes. So to do a game, even by cutting the commercials, I always cut the commercials.
Right.
And even by doing that,
it
was still 3 hours, took 3 tapes. The tapes were $19.95, $20 per tape.
And this is 40, 50 years ago.
This is 1976.
50 years ago.
Yeah. And so that's how so to do a game, it took $60 worth of tape and a lot of effort. So I do have the 76 Ohio State game. I have the 69, the 71, 73 was the famous 10-10 tie.
Yep.
In the 10-10 year, and I do have a whole thing on my website about the number 10 and how the 10-10 year was 1 and 9 was 10, 7 and 3 was 10, and they were both Big Ten schools. Woody Hayes' show was on Channel 10 in Columbus. The other two stations are Channel 4 and Channel 6. 4 and 6 is 10. There's a whole thing about 10. And then look at the last game at Ohio State where Michigan, with not even a good team, beats Ohio State in their own stadium. And for the whole second half, practically, the score was 10-10. Unbelievable. So, and that was the famous game where it ended in a tie because they didn't do overtime back in 1973.
Yep.
And that's when they voted Ohio State. And the reason, of course, they did that was Dennis Franklin got hurt, and they thought he wouldn't be a good representative of the Big Ten in the Rose Bowl.
So to that point, you even then recorded J.P. McCarthy talking to Bob Euper that Monday after the 10-10 tie.
Yeah.
And Euper calls out the athletic directors. He wants names.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
He wants names, right? So you had the foresight to not just record the games on the radio, but then that type of content.
Yeah.
Right? And I remember hearing that for the first time. I think I may have found that tape, or maybe it was the Gerald Ford tape. Mm-hmm. It was on a Kmart cassette. It was unlabeled, right? But then that's when I realized this is additional content that fans like me and everybody else will crave, because if you miss it, it's gone.
Yeah.
Right? So you're really doing us all a great service.
Well, it was like I mentioned to you that this coming season, we've got Oklahoma, I think is the second game in Norman, Oklahoma. It's an away game.
Yep.
Where we whipped out of the old files the famous Rogers and Hammerstein play where Nate Rogers,
so 1984,
Mike Hammerstein, 1984, they collide on a play.
Two defensive tackles from Michigan.
Yes.
They tackle Sandy Schwab, the quarterback from Northwestern?
I believe so, and it was Beckman goes that melodious tune, the couple of Rogers and Hammerstein, and he starts to laugh uproariously, and just you hear a lot of silence because he's laughing so hard. He got off the mic. Brandstetter has to come in and say, over. I'm probably going to have to do the play-by-play because Frank can't stop laughing at his own Rogers and Hammerstein joke. And we just really whipped it out because it was Nate Rogers just passed away about a month and a half ago or so, and his family wanted that clip. Oh, I'm the only person that has that clip. Right. Because if anybody even had, that game wasn't even on TV, and if anybody did have it, they'd have the TV audio.
And not the radio.
So, yeah, it's just a classic moment.
Right.
And then on the next play, I think he said something about so-and-so was hammered by Rogers or whatever it was, and it was...
Nice play on words.
Totally, and it was just an incredible moment. And one of the funniest breakups ever. Yeah, it was a great moment.
No, that was...
Yeah, and it was really funny because just as Beckman was coming around and recovering, that's when Jim Brandstetter said, too bad we're not playing Oklahoma. And he went right in the toilet. I mean, it was...
Just lost it.
Yeah, just lost it completely. But he's such a pro. It's the only time I ever saw or heard Frank Beckman break up on the air.
Well, you've captured a lot of great moments.
Oh, I have.
I know I speak on behalf of a lot of the Michigan fans out there for forever grateful. You've helped me get motivated to start my own archive, which dwarfs in comparison to yours. But I can't thank you enough.
Well, hey,
great to have you.
We now have a couple of guys who are doing a fine job now with Karsh and Jansen, and we've got Jason Van, who was an old number 8 a few years ago down on the field. Just a real good broadcast team, although, Karsh's voice is a little gravelly, and some of us keep saying, on which touchdown is he going to go totally hoarse?
Lose it.
Yeah, because he screams so much,
it's his passion, just like Euper had a passion, right?
Exactly. And I think that's what Michigan fans want to hear that. Absolutely. And that's the reason why I always use the radio broadcast. Even with the Lions games, I would listen to Dan Miller doing a fine job on radio versus the guys on TV. It's just the radio is better. Whenever they show you the highlights on TV, what do they use? Radio. They use the radio guy because it's more exciting. Yeah. So I'm real glad to have a chance to sit and huddle with you.
Well,
we'll use that
it's
term.
so good to have you.
It was great.
One more time, how can they get a hold of you?
Okay, it's you can email me at artvolo, ARTVUOLO at AOL.com. And you can also go to my website. You can see a list of all my stuff. Just click where it says Michigan football. In fact, on that page, you'll see a quote from Lloyd Carr that when he emailed me this quote, I just was moved to tears. It was so incredible that he, such a great coach, would say the things he said about what I do. So it made me feel really, really good. So check it out, and I make all this stuff available at cost. The University of Michigan will not let me do what I do if I were profiting from this, because it wouldn't be kosher. Now, they're making millions of dollars, but I cannot profit off this, so I sell everything that I do at my cost, so you get a really great deal. And I'd love to talk to you about it.
Awesome. Go Blue.
Go Blue. And to you too.
Thanks.